Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I originally wanted to make this video talking to you about the books that I hated, and while I still love that concept for a video and might still do that one day, I thought I would twist this on its head and recommend you books that I hated. We're all so different and so varied and so unique, and our taste in books can vary so much from person to person and reader to reader, that I thought I would talk about some books that weren't for me, but they might be for you. So maybe this will give you a little bit of inspiration. We can figure out the things that make us different, or maybe some of the things that make us the same. I am posting every single day in December for Bookmas/VLOGMAS. If this is a video that you have found interest in, please give it a like and subscribe so we can continue this Bookmas journey together. I think I'm going to start strong with a book that I have talked about many times on my various different social media platforms, because personally it's a book that I have a lot of beef with because I think it had so much potential to be so much better than it was, and that's why this is my #1 book that I'm going to recommend to you, and that of course is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is the first book in the Maple Hills series, and it is set at a college. It really features around the hockey team, their significant others, and also their relationships with each other. Have a bit of a found family environment going on around the hockey team at the Maple Hills University. This is an interconnected standalone series, and I have read the second book in the series as well, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later and why I did that, even though I really didn't like Icebreaker. But if you really enjoy Icebreaker, then you're going to want to continue with this series, especially because a big part of Icebreaker is the background characters, and getting to see some of the other characters' journeys is really satisfying with any interconnected standalone. When I first joined Book Talk and started my reading journey as an adult, Icebreaker was everywhere. Hockey romance was sort of at its peak popularity in 2023, and Icebreaker was the book to read. It was everywhere. Everyone was talking about the Uber scene, and I just knew that I had to pick this up. I picked it up very early on in my reading journey, and I admit for the first few chapters, I was totally hooked. In fact, I liked it so much that I started getting all of my friends to read it, and majority of my friends read it and finished the book, and 6 months later I was still reading the book and trying to finish it. I struggled through it, and I did eventually finish it, thank God for audiobooks, but I had some struggles along my journey. Icebreaker is about Nate and Stassi. Nate is a hockey player, Stassi is a figure skater, and the two teams have been thrown together in this very weird situation where they have to share an ice rink, which is how Nate and Stassi end up crossing paths at a party and each other's lives. What I will say about this book is that there is a lot of plot going on throughout, but there's also a very large amount of spice. So if you like spice, you're probably going to like this book. And if you like a lot of drama and interpersonal relationship drama, this is probably going to be a book for you as well. Stassi has a toxic partnership dynamic with her ice skating partner. They've been partners together for years. They also live together along with Stassi's best friend. So there's a lot of toxicity, and their careers, their futures really depend on each other. It puts a lot of stress on Stassi, and she's just looking for a way to outlet that stress when she meets Nate. Nate is a hockey player who is very goofy, golden retriever coded is how it was described to me when I first read the book. He's a really funny guy. He loves hanging around with his bros, the hockey team. They live in a house together. They're all very rowdy. They're almost like family. And this book goes on a journey. I'm trying really hard not to talk about the things that I didn't like in the book because I am recommending this book to you. So here's what I'll say. Pick up Icebreaker if you love a lot of spice. If you're into a book with a lot of spice, this is something that you're going to want. If you don't mind the characters having more of a surface level connection, then this might be a book for you, as well as a bit of insta-love thrown in. If you are a fan of the found family trope, this is going to be a book to pick up. In fact, that's one of the aspects of this book that I enjoyed the most, was seeing the main characters interact with the people in their lives. Stassi has a best friend who's a lot of fun to watch in those background scenes, as well as Nate and the rest of the hockey players on the team, who you will absolutely fall in love with. In fact, I fell so in love with the other members of the team that I have decided to continue reading the books in this series despite only rating Icebreaker 2 stars. And I read the second book in the series, Wildfire, and I loved it, and I rated that 4.5 stars. So I really do think that there's a lot of potential in this book, and it could be worth reading if you love sports romances, if you love a lot of spice, and you like a lot of interpersonal drama. I'm gonna leave it at that, and I'm gonna try to do better on the next few reviews to not let my feelings about the book show, because that's kind of what this video is, to challenge myself, be of service to you. The second book that I'm gonna recommend to you is Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. Lucinda Berry writes really dark, sort of psychological thrillers that really make you think and kind of reevaluate your own personal beliefs, and this really did that. It was an extremely hard read, but also a very addicting read. I could not wait to see how it was going to go, and while at the end of the day I rated it 2 stars, I honestly really do think this is worth your read, so it's going to be a little easier to talk more positively about this. Saving Noah is about the relationship between a mother and the son has been accused and convicted of committing a crime against a child. Now, the son was a teenager at the time when this happened, and it's really the mother grappling with the effect that this has had on the rest of her family, on herself, but also her relationship with her son. Her son is now being released from a detention facility, and she has to deal with helping him reintegrate himself into society, wondering if he will commit this horrible deed again, and just really grappling with the fact that she has raised a person who is essentially a monster, and is coming to terms with the fact that maybe it's her fault, maybe it's not. It's a hard read, but it's a really interesting read. I think that you definitely want to pick this up if you're a fan of psychological thrillers, if you're a fan of plot twists, because the ending was very unexpected, and if you don't mind unlikable main characters. I don't think that you're gonna like this main character, and I think that's kind of the point of the story, is that she's not the perfect narrator. She's not a main character that you're necessarily rooting for, and yet you can feel for her and you can empathize with her in a way. That's why I think you should pick up Saving Noah. I actually think this book is really well written, and if you enjoy Frida McFadden but want sort of an elevated version of that, and something that is really going to make you think about morality, then you might enjoy Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. The third book that I'm going to recommend to you that I did not enjoy is Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. This is another one that is kind of a book talk darling. It was everywhere for a while. It is a football romance, and it features a pretty large cast of characters because it is also an interconnected standalone series where you can continue reading about these characters in other books. This book features, beginning of the book, is on vacation with her brother and her group of friends. They all grew up together. She's always been in love with her brother's best friend and been rejected by him when she meets a new guy while on vacation. He ends up going to the same college as her, and their relationship progresses. This is a romance, but it's also very dramatic. There is a lot of stuff that happens in this book leading up to it. There's a lot of characters to follow. If you enjoy sports romances, but they're not very heavy on the sport aspect of it, you will enjoy this. If you're the type of romance reader who loves to put yourself in the position of the FMC and sort of escape into that story and have a book boyfriend that just checks all the boxes, but the FMC doesn't overshadow the book boyfriend, this is probably going to be a book for you. If you like a lot of external drama that comes and sort of affects the relationship but isn't directly between the two main characters, then you will probably like Say You Swear. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because that's really all I have to say about it. But this is a book that so many of my friends found totally heart-wrenching and just sort of like soul-crushing. I have clips of so many of my bookish friends crying hysterically, and I understand why. If you get attached to these characters, why you would get to that part, especially in the climax. There's a big plot twist, flips the book on its head and changes everything. And so I understand why people connected to that and why it was kind of soul-crushing for them. And it might be soul-crushing for you and something worth reading. I think I'm gonna stop there for now, and maybe I'll do a part 2 if you want to see me struggle very hard not to completely bash the book that I'm recommending to you. But this is my sort of attempt at just being a politician and recommending you things that I normally wouldn't recommend to anyone, because personally I didn't have a good time with any of these books, but you might. So let me know if you've read these books and had a good time with them, or if you've read these books and had a terrible time with them. Maybe I'll do a video where I tell you not to read books that I love. Maybe that will be easier. This was really hard though. It's really hard for me to speak positively about books that I didn't like, because I get really heated and really passionate when I don't like something. Almost as passionate and heated as I get when I do like something. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. It was fun to make, and I will see you in the next one.